Welcome to Default Assault, where we take on everything by default. I am your host, Demosthenes, and with me today, as always, is the great Kyle Nash. How is it going, Kyle?
What's going on, man? Listen, opening the show, you saw me take that not-so-subtle swig of beer. This is a shout-out to my good friend, Donnie McCall. He had some news for me. Can't say it publicly, but I said I would have a beer or two for him, and I plan to do it during this show.
You know what? I should grab a beer in a few and join.
Game up.
You know what? It. Yep, that's how you do it.
Editing magic. You did not have to wait for him to go get his beer.
I spent thousands of dollars at college just for that. In fact, I learned quite a bit about beer in college. Today on Default Assault, we'll be talking about something slightly different. With Disney recently having closed the Great Movie Ride at Disney's Hollywood Studios, formerly known as the Disney MGM Studios, and the Universe of Energy, an original Epcot attraction that has seen a few different iterations since its opening, but now is apparently going to be replaced by Guardians of the Galaxy. It kind of got me thinking, what other extinct rides from the past do we truly miss? I mean, unlike a movie or a piece of music that, you may have experienced and really loved, and, maybe a decade passes before you decide to go back and revisit it, you have the option of going back and revisiting it. A ride is a very, very different animal altogether. Yeah, you can watch videos, you can, see pictures, but it's never the same. So these are true relics from history.
Absolutely. All about the experience. So whether you're talking the Great Movie Ride or the what is it, the Hall of Innovation?
Universe of Energy.
No. I'm talking about another ride altogether. You're about to ruin my punchline.
Punchline away.
Okay. Well, no, now it's do I have to? Anyways. No, but or the Halls of Innovation. It's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow there. Just saying.
That's still around.
I know. I'm noting the irony that they're getting rid of the Great Movie Ride, but that thing is still there. But let's move on, Demos. You're hitting a nerve.
Whoa! What's wrong with Carousel of Progress?
Oh, Carousel of Progress. There, I couldn't remember it. You're the Disney. You're the Disney Disney file here. And by the way, it's not that I have a problem with it per se, but there's other things that have seen its extinction, not named that. And it's just not fair. I'll leave it at that.
I think the one problem with Carousel of Progress, as far as Disney World is concerned, is that it's in the wrong park. That should be in Epcot. In all honesty, it's a Future World ride. That should be there.
Yeah. And if that ever happens for you, it'll be a great, big, beautiful tomorrow. Moving on.
I don't know if I can let that slide. That's a Walt Disney classic. But anyway, today we'll be talking about our top 5 extinct Disney rides. Now, we're specifically going to be talking about Walt Disney World down in Florida. If you guys have suggestions for extinct Disney rides from Disneyland or Disneyland Paris, Tokyo Disneyland, the 1,200 different Mickey Mouse lands across the world, please let us know in the comments below, and like and subscribe so you don't miss any future contents. So, without further ado, let's start with our number 5 pick. Now, I have to say, this one, people who know me might expect this a little higher on my list. But I'll get to why it's not in a moment. My number 5 pick is 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea from Magic Kingdom, originally opening day attraction 1971 to 1994, where it was replaced originally, by Ariel's Grotto, which was a meet and greet with Little Mermaid. And then, infamously, it became Pooh's Playful Spot, the most unfortunately named play area in history, and then eventually Seven Dwarfs Mine Train.
Bro, well, first of all, okay, if something is led by the phrase poo and your mind goes to calling it a playful spot in that way, that's a problem with your social life. I'm just going to throw that out there. A, B.
You don't think that Pooh's playful spot sounds kind of weird?
Yeah. So anyways, the reason why I can't comment on 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea is because every time I was at the park, granted as a native Floridian, the damn thing was broken down. So how on earth? Of course they're shutting it down. It's probably a maintenance nightmare.
That's a you problem. You just didn't plan well enough. You should have been there when it was working. You know, what the hell?
Next thing you know, Kanye will be telling me it's the weather's fault and I control the weather too.
Well, for people who never got the chance to experience the ride, it was essentially like this jerk here. Essentially, the ride was just breaking down. It's like, oh no, Kyle is coming. We must deprive him of this experience.
Bro, somebody sabotaged that mess. Probably was the Beastie Boys too. But anyway,
that must be it. It was essentially there were submarines that were actually on a track that were submerged underwater. So you would go down into the submarine. It can hold a couple dozen people. I don't remember specifically how many, and you would sit by your own porthole and you would experience a journey 20,000 leagues under the sea with Captain Nemo, and you would see some animatronic fish, and you would fight the giant squid, and there were a lot of pretty neat effects. Now, from Walt Disney's film tenure, with the exception of Mary Poppins, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea was by far my favorite. Growing up, that was it opened my world to the works of Jules Verne. Growing up, he was the author I turned to. It really ignited my imagination. So I always had an affinity for that film and especially this ride. However, I don't rank it as high because recently I had the chance to go to Disneyland. And while they don't have the version that Disney World had, they didn't have a 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea themed ride. They had a very, very similar ride there. Themed for Finding Nemo, and it's essentially the same setup. I got a chance to go down and experience it. You're probably seeing the video recording I took right now, and yeah, it was a 45-minute wait because it was the slowest loading ride in history. And while it was kind of cool experiencing that attraction again, I suddenly realized why I wasn't. I was no longer a big fan. Let's just say as a cute ride, but I just didn't think it was worth the wait. I probably would have felt better if they had the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea theming because I have a preference for that. It makes a little bit more sense with the overall idea of the ride, but that could just be me. What do you think, Kyle? Would you have liked to experience it if the mouse hadn't sabotaged it?
I mean, yeah, exactly. And to be honest, dude, like, it's a freaking submarine. Of course I would have been interested. Of course, then what probably would have happened is I would have been able to fit in the damn thing. That's a whole other topic. Maybe that's why they sabotaged it. They knew I couldn't fit.
Or they didn't want it to sink. You know, that could be.
Wow. That's Demos fat shaming his co-host.
I'm not one to talk, okay? I will say this, in Tokyo Disney Sea, they have a version of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea over there, but it's very, very different, and it's a really cool ride. It's essentially, it's set up like, it's a suspension ride in the vein of Peter Pan's Flight, except you're completely enclosed, and you're looking out through windows. It creates this sense that you're underwater, and you have like a flashlight, and you're going through the story. It has some weird turns where you find like these weird underwater alien creatures. I don't know where the hell that came from, but it was a really cool concept. It's a cool ride.
I'll have to take your word.
Or go to Tokyo. Default assault on the road.
For me, fit anywhere.
Go on, would you like a Tokyo edition of Default Assault? I think that sounds pretty cool.
Ni hao. Yeah, I'd be down with that.
You even speak the language. There we
Oh,
go.
the Chinese. Wait, never mind. I'm wrong. Konnichiwa.
We're
There
f***ed.
it is. Anyways.
All right, moving on to our number 4 pick. This is from Epcot. Now, growing up, Epcot was my favorite Disney park. Yes, I was one of those kids. I loved Epcot. I mean, I probably didn't appreciate it as much when I was younger as I do now. And there is no Disney park that almost breaks my heart whenever I visit it nowadays as Epcot was, because the theme park that everybody experienced in the 80s and early 90s is almost completely different. Imagine going to Magic Kingdom and having all your favorite rides torn out, from Splash Mountain, Thunder Mountain, Space Mountain, Peter Pan, all of that gone and replaced with something else and something less extravagant. That's kind of how I feel when I go to Epcot. So yeah, this list might be a little, spoilers, a little Epcot heavy. But my number 4 pick is The World of Motion, which ran from 1982 to 1996. Did you ever experience The World of Motion?
I did. It's forgettable, dude. It didn't really do it for me. I mean, I know what it is because I'm a local. I've been on it multiple times. This is one of those where you more ask the question of what replaced it before one laments over its departure.
Well, yeah. The replacement wasn't bad. Test Track is the ride that replaced the World of Motion.
Oh,
But here, let me explain what this ride was. It was, first of all, it was the only ride designed by a Disney 9 old man animator, Ward Kimball, probably most famous for animating Jiminy Cricket and so forth. It was one of Epcot's few really whimsical rides. It was a 15-minute long ride about the history of transportation from the invention of the wheel up until the future. And you actually got a chance at the very end. You had the Pepper's Ghost effect, and you actually saw yourself riding in a futuristic vehicle, kind of like the end of Haunted Mansion, where you would see your hitchhiking ghost. It was a really funny ride, though. It was meant to be tongue in cheek. You saw the world's first traffic jam, and you saw chariot sails and stuff. It was cute. But like a lot of the original Epcot rides, this was like a 15-minute long extravaganza. It wasn't like a short little 4-minute dark ride. This was a big deal. And yeah, Test Track, the replacement, it's a fine replay. I like Test Track. But part of me laments not being able to ride World of Motion because it was something a little bit more unique.
the best thing about World of Motion is it was a great place to get out of the hot sun and be in the AC for a while for 15 minutes. I got to tell you, that was definitely a plus for it being there. Beyond that, the Test Track, man, sets it right for me. I'm sorry, dude. That's part of what lessens the blow is if
Yeah.
it replaced by something awesome.
Yeah. Well, what about this? What if we kept both?
But then they would occupy the same space. That's not possible.
They have 48 square miles down there. We could have had the World of Motion. And besides, it's called the World of Motion. Couldn't it move?
So what's the next one, Demos?
I had to get that pun out there. All right. Number 3 choice. This one, people ask, this is like one of the most popular extinct Walt Disney World rides. And a lot of people say, why is it so low on your list? Are you insane? I'll explain why. My number 3 choice is Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
Why is that so low on your list? Oh, right. Sorry.
What I say. It ran from 1983 to 1999. One of my earliest, if not my earliest, most vivid memory of Disney is getting out of Mr. Toad's Wild Ride to find the whole park in the midst of a downpour. And my family deciding, let's run across directly to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And that's when I first rode 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Has nothing to do with the ride, but I just thought I'd relate that awesome memory of Florida weather I'm sure you all appreciate it. But
You like the world of motion so much.
exactly. Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. The reason it's a little lower on my list, well, of course, for those of you who never got to experience it, it was based on the Disney film *The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad*, specifically the Wind and the Willow section. So you and Mr. Toad are in a car running away from the weasels, and the ride ends up putting you on a train track, playing chicken with a train. Doesn't really end well. The ride, it literally sends you to hell, and then you exit. What kind of Disney ride has the balls to send its guests to hell rather than a gift shop?
One that doesn't exist anymore.
Well, the reason it's a little lower on my list is the ride technically still exists in Disneyland. Disneyland's version is still up and running. The only unfortunate part was that the Disney World version, like many adaptations of original Disneyland attractions, was a better ride. In fact, a lot of people don't particularly realize or remember this, but the Disney World version was actually two different rides, two different sets of tracks that ran through many different show scenes. They all ended the same. They both sent you to hell, but they were different versions of the ride. It was a unique experience, depending on what track you got. So that's kind of that's one of the things I do miss. I did prefer it to its replacement, The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Thankfully, it wasn't his playful spot, but nevertheless.
Those adventures took place in his playful spot. See, do you feel better now?
Not really. Did you ever get a chance to experience it?
I did. My daughter thought it was amazing.
Huh?
You meant Toad. Yeah. No, she didn't expect. No. Actually, my daughter liked the Pooh ride. But yeah, no, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride is the jam. Probably should be at the top of your list. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, that's fantastic. Aside from, forget about not just going to hell, but the fact that you end up there by a head-on collision with the train. Yeah. Okay, let's do this.
I don't think you'll disagree with my number one, FYI. I think that you'll be 100% agreement with my number one.
I will be the judge of this. Wait, yeah.
I concur. All right, moving on to number two. When you talk about extinct Disney attractions, this is one of the most saddening for many Disney fans. It is another Epcot attraction from 1983 to 1999, Horizons. Now, Horizons was a Future World attraction that combined everything that made Future World special. So, for people that aren't not too familiar with Epcot, the original layout, every single pavilion had something, a unique subject that it focused on. Spaceship Earth, the big golf ball, as some people call it, was about communication. You had the Living Seas, which was about undersea exploration. You had the land, which was about the land, etc. Horizons was the ride that combined all of those elements. It was the one ride in Future World that focused on an optimistic view of the future. It was really what Epcot was really all about. Another 15-minute long attraction, by the way. It was funny enough that you should bring up earlier. You brought up Carousel of Progress, because this ride was the spiritual sequel to Carousel of Progress. The song, "It's a Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow," was actually even heard on this ride. So a lot of people have hold this in a special place in their hearts, and the fact that it was demolished so cruelly and replaced with Mission Space, a ride that barely gets any long wait times, is a little tragic. Not to say that there shouldn't have been a space pavilion, but not in that spot, not in this way. Did you ever get a chance to ride it?
Yeah, Horizons, I feel like that was one that needed an upgrade and didn't get it. Is basically what it comes down to. I never thought it was that bad. It was one of the classic air quotes rides. But yeah, the mission space was in fact kind of a flop so far as it's going. So there you go.
Yeah, I like the fact that it kind of had to choose your own adventure feel. It took you through all these different futuristic worlds that we could possibly that's logically within our grasp.
Right. Well,
Uh,
and that's why I said it needed an upgrade. With the technology we have now, that could have been absolutely amazing at this day and age, I think.
I would agree, but yay, we replaced it with a 4 minute ride that has killed people. So we got that going. So our number one choice was the original, never been topped, Journey into Imagination,
Oh, right. You're catching me on a technicality.
which ran from 1983 to 1998. Damn. That ride, I was one of, when it opened, it was one of the most technically advanced, I think it was the most technically advanced dark ride ever made up until that time, sponsored by Kodak. Um, it was amazing. You would start your trip into your imagination with Dream Finder, and you'd eventually leave the dream port and experience all different types of imagination, whether it was through art or literature or performing art or science or it was not, yeah, to call it imaginative is a cheat, but it was a very clever, very entertaining, very humorous, very colorful, inspiring ride. Also very expensive to run, so Kodak threatened to drop their sponsorship, and they ended up reworking the ride to make it less expensive. The iteration, there was one tiny little iteration in between, but the iteration that everybody knows today is catastrophe. It's an insult to that original ride. In fact, it's a full third shorter. The original Journey into Imagination ran for about 11 or 12 minutes. This new version runs for 6. When you're exiting the ride, you're walking through original parts of the original masterpiece. There is no ride at Disney that pains me more than that loss.
And Demos, I'm going to save you here from Disney fans and receiving hate tweets and social media pings and all that. That you haven't even mentioned the biggest tragedy, and that too would be the accompanying demise of the ride's mascot, Figment the Dragon.
Well, Figment did he wasn't in the second short-lived iteration, but he was in the third. He's in the ride currently. The original mascot, who created the figment of his imagination, was Dreamfinder, the red-haired, bearded guy with the hat. He was one of the few, because when Epcot originally opened, it was you would rarely find any Disney characters in it. You might see Goofy walk around in like a spacesuit or something like that, but the real mascot of Epcot became Figment and Dreamfinder. People would pose for pictures with them. They completely eradicated that history with this new iteration of the ride where they have Figment dress up like a skunk and farts. Hey, there's imaginative, incredible entertainment if that's what's called. Alan, did you remember experiencing that ride as a kid?
I do, and it's fond. And
Yeah,
it's even Figment the Dragon.
the non-farting version.
Let's stop farting around with this and move to the next topic. Oh wait, that was the last one. So let's be honest. You still had Mr. Toad's Wild Ride entirely too low, but I approve of Journey Imagination at the top of your list.
Well, like I said, like if Mr. Toad's Wild Ride did not exist anymore, if it was completely eradicated from history, like Journey into Imagination, where no real parts of that ride exist any longer. So I mean, there are a couple of little parts, but it's completely gone. Mr. Toad still exists in Disneyland. So that's I just recently wrote it. So I mean, I can't exactly.
You recently wrote it.
Kyle.
What about the you haven't made it across the country yet?
Sorry. Okay, we're gonna take default assault on the road. So we're gonna stop. Logically, we should stop in California, in LA, and then go to Japan.
On the way to Tokyo.
And you know what? Once we're in Japan, technically Shanghai and Hong Kong Disneyland are nearby, so we might as well go to those and ride the Tron roller coaster, and then go to Paris and just work our way around. It's logical.
I dig it.
Well, that just about does it for this episode of Default Assault. Were there any Disney rides that we left out that you would like to include in our list? Let us know in the comments below. Did you agree with the order of our list? Do you, like Mr. Kyle Nash, wrongly believe that Mr. Toad should be higher than...
Really? Just like you wrongly believe that Rogue One isn't great? Yeah.
Rogue One is good. Argument settled.
Great. Thank you.
It's good. I agree. You're 100% right. Rogue One is good.
Wow. This got really easy.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's just not as great as you think it is. So anyway, make sure to check me out on Twitter at Default Hilarity. Check me out on Facebook as well, Hilarity by Default. While you're at it, check out my website, hilaritybydefault.com, for all the latest videos, movie reviews, etc. Kyle, where can we find you?
Of course, you'll find me on Twitter at the SOTG and on Facebook, the student of the game.
The student of the game. So, if I subscribe to your channel, am I a student of the students of the game?
I'll allow it.
All right, good. Well, we'll see you next week by default.